Europe has got its energy supplies from Russia shut off. After months of dilly-dallying, Russia has finally admitted to Western sanctions being the sole reason why natural gas cannot be supplied to Europe. Moscow has also made it clear that until sanctions against it are lifted, the natural gas embargo on Europe would remain in place. Absence of Russian gas has brought upon Europe perhaps its worst energy crisis in modern times. European countries have resorted to energy rationing in order to save up gas for the coming winter months, which promises to be excruciating for the bloc. In a combative speech to an economic forum in Russia's Far East region, President Vladimir Putin said that Russia would not lose its war in Ukraine and that it had strengthened its sovereignty. That was hardly the highlight of Putin's talk. In what comes as bad news for Europe, Putin threatened to curtail the export of grain from Ukraine's ports to countries in Europe. Putin accused the West of taking advantage of the deal at the expense of developing world countries. Calling the deal a quote-unquote swindle, Putin said, and I quote, "What we are seeing is another blatant deception." The Russian president said the accord was delivering grain, fertilizer and other food to the European Union and Turkey rather than to poor countries who should be the priority. Putin also said that only 2 of 87 ships leaving Ukraine with grain had gone to developing countries, a claim which has been disputed by Ukraine. Interestingly, Vladimir Putin is not just making statements against the grain deal with Ukraine. In fact, he seems prepared to act against it. As he said, and I quote, "We should probably think about limiting the destinations for grain exports, and I'm going to discuss that with Mr. Erdogan, President of Turkey, because it was he and I who came up with this plan." The grain deal between Ukraine, Russia, the United Nations and Turkey has played a pivotal role in stabilizing global food and grain supplies to an extent. Russia threatening to pull out of the deal, therefore, threatens that hard-achieved stability and also promises to hike food prices, especially in Europe, which would be the primary victim of grains not leaving Ukrainian ports. Ukraine, meanwhile, has been able to earn significant sums of money by exporting grains to the world at a time when its economy continues to be on the ventilator. While Europe will definitely feel the pain of Russia walking out of the grain deal, countries like Japan, South Korea and Egypt will also have to suffer, because at least 75% of the ships exporting grain since the deal was struck in July were destined for non-EU states. European countries accounted for about 23% of the reported destinations for Ukrainian grain, according to the United Nations. However, the pain for Europe promises to be more pronounced, since non-EU nations are not really reeling under an intense energy crisis at the moment. Following Putin's comments that suggested Russia could walk out of the grain deal, global wheat prices went up 4% in early Wednesday trading. Europe is now staring at a potential food crisis. Whatever action Putin takes, he will make sure it hurts Europe the most. Do you think Putin will act on his latest threat? Do let us know in the comments.